Okay, Vino Maldonado Masiad Denikonani Masiad Denikonel, continuing on in Sefer Messilat Yesharim on chapter 14, Perek Yudalet, Bechelkea Perishut, the details or the elements of the Prishut. Chelkea Prishut Rashiim Shlosha. Basically, there are three categories of Prishut, of separation or abstinence. Ki yesh Prishut Bahanaot, Prishut Bedinim, Prishut Beminhagim. There is prishut with regarding pleasures of the world. There's prishut in dinim, specifically things of mitzvot, and prishut habeminhagim, and prishut in customs or in behaviors. Ha-prishut bahanaot huma shehiskanu beperek hakodem. Separating from various different types of pleasures is what we discussed in the previous chapter. Dehainu shelo lakahat midivrei haolam elamat hashatzorach yochriach. A person should only take from the world what is needed. Remember, he defined a good prishut and he defined a bad prishut. A good prishut is when a person separates from the things that he does not need. A bad prishut is when a person separates from things that he needs. Right? Okay. And this is basically connected, usually the pleasures of the world are connected to one or more of the five senses. The hainu b'ma'achalot, regarding food, which of course is taste and smell. B'bi'ilot, relations, which is touch. B'malbushim, which is clothing. B'tiyulim, walking and having all kinds of, tiyulim for nothing. B'shmuot, all kinds of strolls and leisure activities. Conversation, having all kinds of idle conversation. B'chol kayotze bazeh, and all these types of things. Rak beyamim sha'oneg bahem mitzvah. Only time a person should be involving himself in an extra, not excess ever, but an extra amount of these types of things is when there is a mitzvah, like Leil Tevilah, right? Or like on Shabbat, where we have a concept of oneg, or like Yom Tov, Be'ezrat Hashem coming soon. So these, on Yom Tov, a person is permitted to have ta'anugei ha'olam, which means, what does it mean you make a Yom Tov Kodesh? Therefore, there has to be a difference between how you do Yom Tov versus how you do Chol. It's not just a matter of melacha, it's also a matter of the pleasures of the world. So if a person behaves on Yom Tov and on Shabbat differently than behaves during the week regarding pleasures, then he's Mekadesh the Yom Tov, Mekadesh the Shabbat. V'prishut bedinim hu lachmir bahem tamid. And regarding the mitzvot, regarding Torah laws, prishut from dinim is to always try to be on the machmir side. Remember, this is personal chumrot. This is not talking about chumrot for other people. Everybody has to find their own place in the Torah where they can be machmir. And this is a very common problem, that people have a tendency to be machmir on themselves and then look at other people who are not having chumrot in those areas as not being appropriate. No. What's weakness for you might not be weakness for another person. What's strong for you might be not strong for another person. So a person should develop chumrot in areas in their life where they have weakness in Torah observance, and not everybody has the same weaknesses in Torah observance. Lachush afilu divrei yachid b'machlokat im ta'amon nireh, which means, memory said the entire book is based on Torah. A person has to know the Torah. You cannot be a chassid unless you're a Talmid Chacham, right? En ama aretz hasid. You have to be a haver. You have to be someone who knows the Torah. You have to know Mishnah. You have to know Drash Be'al Peh. How is a person supposed to have prishut? Because what he's saying here, that even though the halacha says that something is permitted, if there's a da'at yachid that says it's not allowed, and the opinion of the da'at yachid appears to be logical, then you should be machmir in that area. Well, how are you going to know that if a person doesn't know details of the halakha, not just to know what's permitted and what's not permitted, to know, well, what different opinions of the chachamim? Yes? Okay. Afilu she'en halacha kemoto, even though the halacha is not like that person, which means we're posek hacharebim lahatot, we follow the majority, but there's a da'at yachid, but that da'at yachid makes sense lechumra. Therefore, you might decide in that particular situation you're going to be machmir. Ubitnai shelo yeh chomro kulo. But the key here is the person has to be smart enough to know that the chumrah he's having in this area is not a kula in another area, which means he's machmir in one area of the Torah, but he's mekil in another area of the Torah. For instance, a person who doesn't want to help a person on Shabbat for pikuach nefesh, even though that's against the halacha. Why? Because he wants to be shomer Shabbat. He thinks shmirat Shabbat is not doing melacha and a situation of pikuach nefesh. But what is he doing? He's being mekil in pikuach nefesh. He's being machmir on Shabbat, but he's being mekil in pikuach nefesh. Oy va'avoy. It's a terrible thing. That's a clear example, but that's din. Here we're talking about even a situation where the halacha says this is the way to do it, but if you're machmir, according to the da'at yachid, you're going to be mekil in another area, and that you have to. So therefore, you have to have a tremendous breadth of knowledge of Gemara and poskim in order to be able to know how to negotiate in the midah of prishut. Good. Ulachmir b'sfekot afilu b'mkom she'efshar le'akel b'hem. And if there's a safek, even though we have a concept safek deoraita lechumra, safek derabanan lekula, you can personally be machmir even in the derabanan. You don't have to be mekil according to the lenient opinion in certain areas. So this is what he's talking about in the prishut, in the dinim. And our rabbis already explained to us in Masechet Cholin, Ma'amar Yechezkel, what it says in Yechezkel, Hine nafshi lo mituma'a, that my soul is not defiled, my soul is not unclean. Shelo achalti mi behema shehora bachacham, that I did not eat from an animal that basically was loathsome, that was questionable of kashrut. V'lo achalti mi besar kos, and I did not eat meat of which people would exclaim, slaughter, slaughter, which means an animal that was slaughtered when it was close to dying. It's a concept in halakha. In order for you to eat an animal, you have to slaughter it, yes? But what if you see an animal that you don't really want to slaughter, but you see it gets sick, and it looks like it's about to die? So what happens once the animal dies on its own? It's nevela, it's garbage. You give it to the Gentiles, so you can't eat it. So people are saying, slaughter, slaughter, quickly slaughter the animal before it dies. This way you're going to make it kosher, yes? Through the slaughter, which this is a problem. He says, from the Medin, it's permitted. Ela ihul achmir nafsheh, but a person should be machmir, a person should be stringent and not do this. Why? Because it's a question of whether or not this animal is taref. And I said above that what is permitted for all the Jewish people doesn't mean it's permitted for people who would consider themselves prushim. Which means what the halakha is taking into account the minimum standard every Jew is obligated in. If you want to be a parush, if you want to be a person who has abstinence or separates yourself in mitzvah observance, then clearly you have to not do what other people are doing in the chumrah situation. You have to be more machmir in certain areas. Sheyesh lahem larchik mina ki'ur mina domeh lo minha domeh la domeh, that the person has to distance himself from anything that seems to be not proper, something that is ugly, which means even though it might be permitted for halakha, it's not clean, and that's what parush should separate himself from. V'chen amar Morokva, and this is what Morokva said also in Masechet Chulin, Ana behai milta chala bar chamra legabe abba. With following the matter, I am compared to my father, vinegar, the son of wine. Let's see, that is, my level of piety in this matter can be compared to wine that soured and became vinegar. Just as vinegar is inferior to the wine from which it is derived, so too I am inferior to the piety of my father. Which means even though he's a parush, he's saying that his father was more of a parush than he was. The ilu abba kadachal bista idana, for my father, if he would eat meat now, lo hava achal givina, he would not eat meat until the same time tomorrow. Ad lemachar ki hashta, which means we know there's a custom, or actually you don't eat milk after meat, but how long you wait is dependent on minhag. So there are various minhagim that are brought amongst the chachamim, and so he says that his father would be machmir, that after he had meat he wouldn't have dairy for an entire 24-hour period until the following day of the time he had meat. The ana, whereas I eat meat, meaning with this meal I do not eat cheese, I do not eat dairy. But with the next meal I do eat cheese. This actually is the halakha, but the question is, it's according to the custom of how many seudot a person has. Generally, The Gemara talks about pat shachrit, pat arbit. The person finishes davening, learns, and then has shachrit, about 11 o'clock. And then he has pat arbit, which is going to be, 5, 6 o'clock. So therefore, what? It's 6 hours. In places where they eat more frequently, obviously the distance between meal to meal is smaller. And that's where the various customs came about with regarding 1 hour and 6 hours and all that kind of stuff. Besuda achariti achilna, but in the next meal I'll eat cheese. And halakha is not like his father used to do, which means nobody holds that you have to wait 24 hours until the next time you have dairy. If that's the case, then Mor Ukva wouldn't have done against that, which means if that was the halakha, then there's no room for a person to be machmir if that's the halakha. Ela shaviv machmir haya prishuto, but his father would be machmir in his prishut. L'kach haya Mor Ukva koreh atzmo chala bar hamra, and that's why Mor Ukva would call himself vinegar, the son of wine. Shelo haya parush kol kach kamahu, he was not as separated from things as his father was. V'aprishut b'minhagim hu ha'itbodedut v'hibadel min ha'chevra ha'medinit. And how does a person separate himself regarding customs? That you separate from the common people, that you separate yourself from the regular people. Why? Lefanot libo el avodah v'itbonut ba karoi, to separate yourself from doing avodat Hashem, and also proper, hitbonenut, thinking, which means the majority of people are not necessarily doing the avodat Hashem properly. So if a person is always finding himself with the majority, chances are, unless he's in a very, very unique place, chances are he's not doing avodat Hashem the ideal way. There are very few seridei Hashem, very, very few, shall we say, officers of Hashem that behave according to them. They have to separate themselves from the masses, which means there are times when you're together with them, and then there's other times when they want to do something. You say, I don't want to do that right now because you want to go learn, or you want to get close to Hashem, and they want to do something that is, shall we say, maybe not asur, but something that's not getting closer to Hashem, which inherently we know exactly what we're talking about. Okay? Listen, I'll tell you. Explain to me once like this. In medicine, if there's a disease, there's two ways to deal with a disease outside of your home. And we're saying it's a spiritual disease. Well, it's no difference, right? One way is something called quarantine, which means I go into my house, I close the door, I close all the windows, pull the shades down, I stay inside my house, don't let anybody in, don't let anybody out. And this way, I'm significantly protected from the disease that's outside. That's called quarantine until the disease resolves itself, and then you return back. That is an effective way of eliminating the disease, but what's the problem with that? Someone doesn't have exposure to the good things that are outside. It's not all bad outside. There's good and bad. There's another effective way, which we know, it's called inoculation, vaccination, which basically means there's a disease out there. You don't want to catch that disease, so what do? You take an injection, which strengthens your immune system, and that strengthening of your immune system allows you to go out into the world. Yes, it's risky, because there may be a time when your immune system is weak and you might catch the illness, there's no question about it, but then you have an appropriate exposure in the world to the things that you need to be exposed to. So what's the parallel? What's the nimshal? The nimshal is if there's a spiritual disease on the outside, there are those people who lock themselves up in their own little places and don't ever venture outside, and they are somewhat protected. But the problem with those people, if they find themselves outside, they fall fast because they have no immune defenses against things that are on the outside. And if, God forbid, something makes its way onto the inside, they get sick and die real fast. Whereas if a person inoculates himself with a proper education, learns Torah, has the Torah with him wherever he's going, as a protection, then there may be times when he's going to fall. There may be times. But he's able to withstand and get up. And that's where. So that's the difference in philosophical ways of how you handle a disease on the outside. So he's saying here, a person should not, a person should not be part of the extreme. Not extreme to the left, not extreme to the right. Neither of them is good. Shekvar Amru Zichronim Revacha, rabbis already taught Masechet Ketubot, L'olam te da'ato shel adam me'orevet im haberiot, which means a person should always find himself integrated with society. You shouldn't completely remove yourself from society. And that doesn't mean you can select the society you choose to be with. A person should not find himself in a place where there's a lot of zonot and things like that. That's not society, that's avaryanim. But a person should not completely remove himself from the society. V'chen amru, it also says, Herev el habadim v'no'alu. A sword against the people who separate themselves, which means Judaism does not have this concept of what we see in Christianity, which is a monasteric type of living. That you have people who go into a monastery and they don't involve themselves in the world. This is not Judaism. Judaism is about being in the world. Asher bara Elohim la'asot. A person has to be in the world. Herev al sonehem shel tamidei chachamim. Sheyoshvim bad bevad ve'oskim b'Torah. How does this mean? What does the Talmud say? A sword on the haters of Talmidei Chachamim. When the Gemara says sonehem shel Talmidei Chachamim, it's a euphemism for Talmidei Chachamim. So basically what the Gemara is really saying is, woe to Talmidei Chachamim, sheyoshvim bad bevad ve'oskim b'Torah, that they sit alone learning Torah, ela yithaber ha'adam im hatovim. But a person should attach himself to good people. Zman mashe mitzarech lo lelimudo o lefarasato, whether it's from learning point of view or whether it's from a parnasa point of view, which means a person is not supposed to be by themselves learning. That doesn't mean you can't ever learn by yourself, but it means that a person should be involved with others. This way the Torah spreads. This way the Torah goes to other people. You affect other people. And then afterwards, when he's not around people, when he doesn't, when he fulfills his obligation to be around people to some extent, then when he's alone, he can spend time rising up in the highest levels, which means there's a level. It's like someone asked me once. I personally asked this question, maybe when I was a little older than you. That, I always found that when I pray by myself, my kavanah was very, very Baruch Hashem good. And sometimes when I'm with the congregation, it's not so good. I asked the rabbi, I said, why? He said, you basically give up a little bit of your personal kavanah for the tzibur. Which means it's not about you, it's about others. So a person who's always mitboded, the person who's always by himself, he's not interacting with society. This is not good. We have a concept of that when there's trouble, that's forbidden to go separate yourself from the congregation. You must join. That's why Yom Kippurim you have to go to a Bet Knesset. Even though we learned that in Yaseh Yimei Teshuvah, even the Tefillah Yachid is accepted. Yes, a person praying by himself. But who prays by themselves on Yom Kippurim? Nobody does. Why? Because it's etzara. It's a time of trouble. It's a time of deen. So therefore we come together in times of trouble. But if when a person, of course, is involving himself with the society that doesn't permit you to do things that are not allowed, like a person should limit the amount of speaking that they do, and you shouldn't involve yourself in idle chatter, nonsense type of talking. A person shouldn't look beyond those 4 amot. Person should keep his eyes in his own little area, not look to other areas. And a person, when he accustoms himself to behaving like this, even when he goes outside and he goes out into the world, what happens? He's only looking in his Dalet Amot. He's not looking outside the Dalet Amot. His eyes are not wandering all over the place to see things that really are not appropriate to be seen. These 3 different parts, even though the Ramchal has told them in very, very short ways, but these small things really have a major impact in a person's life. You can put everything you do to this microscope, even though it seems like a small item, everything you do is connected to what he said in this chapter. But I already said to you that I can't give you all the details. which means that the details can't be conveyed, but rather you have to figure that out yourself. You have to figure that out based on the klalim, based on the general principles, to align or to make the various details with the accurate and true intent of the general principles. That's why it's very important. Ramchal is big on learning the klalim, and then the pratim you fit the pratim in. But there's many people spend a lot of time learning a lot of pratim, learning a lot of details, and all they have is a garden that's all messed up. It's not misudar. That's what he said in the beginning, right? So if a person learns klalim, the klalim allow a person to organize the different details so you have a place to put them. Okay, Baruch Adonai Olam, Amen ve'amen.